The time of your life where you're most imprinted and terrified is when you're like 6, 7, and you're watching a horror movie. And it's a feeling that you won't have again. It's an eternal quest for getting that feeling. I think that's what the journey is of a filmmaker that loves making scary movies.
The story is really about friendship. Pennywise is the horror part of it, but this story is about people bonding together, which I feel like everyone can relate to.
Now, after 4 months, we're all like brothers now, and sister. We knew so much about each other, and we were best friends already. I've never been so close to a kid my age.
This is gonna be one of the greatest, most unforgettable life experiences I've ever had and will ever have. So I'm definitely gonna walk away from this movie enjoying it and being proud of what I did and what we've all done as a team.
Oh my gosh, this summer has been the summer of my life. I'm never ever going to forget this.
Going into it was a little bit like going back into my memories and my emotional memories and bring them back and putting them on a screen. And it is actually a love letter to childhood. It talks about all the treasures that lie in childhood, the power of imagination and belief that you inevitably lose when you grow up. And Stephen King really made an impact when I was growing up. So for me was how much of an influence Stephen King was in the way I understand stories and I tell stories.
I was born and raised in Buenos Aires, and in the summer, our parents wouldn't allow us to watch TV, but we could read anything we wanted. And we discovered Stephen King, I think, when I was around 12.
And being a reader of Stephen King since like young age, it helps you grow up with a bit of sense of humor against adversity, sarcasm, and a sense of irony that is important when you want to be an artist.
I got to read it when I was 15. It blew my mind because it was the first time that I was reading characters that were so close to my age, that were in real perilous situations. They were fighting bigotry, anti-Semitism, and sexism. I couldn't believe what I was reading because it made me feel so powerful. You know, as a 15-year-old, if these kids could do this, we all can. And it never left me.
Barbara is my sister, and working with your family is really a privilege. I'm a director, she's a producer, and sometimes they're like, two ends of the same team that sometimes they clash in the middle because there's always the creative part versus the financial part. At the end of the day, it's always a relief knowing that she has my back and I have hers. We trust each other, we're always in the same team, and all we want is make a great movie. When the previous version of this production stopped and we came in, we all agreed that we would make the movie. We sort of started from scratch, and it took us around a year to go into production again. That's the fastest we could think of doing it.
No, and it was miraculously fast, and also it fit perfectly because we needed summer hours with the kids.
I'm Finn and I play Richie.
Hi, I'm Wyatt and I play Stanley.
I'm Jeremy and I play Ben. We're at
I don't play anybody, I'm just
Almost
the
fan.
Wanderer.
just a wanderer. I'm an onlooker of the set. The cast in this movie seems to easily relate to their characters, and they don't just portray their characters perfectly, they bring a new light to their characters.
What are you listening to? Wow. New Kids on the Block.
I don't even like them. I was just...
Wait, you're the new kid, right? Now I get it.
King made it so easy for us to cast them because we knew exactly what we were looking for. It was instant, and the guys would come in the room, and sometimes they wouldn't even come for that particular role, but they started talking, and you could see, okay, this is Stanley, obviously, this is Richie, clearly. So it was very, very easy.
You know what these are? They're placebos. They're bullshit.
No, sweetie, they help you. They help me. When you were born, you were so small and so delicate and fragile. I had to protect
How
you.
could any of this protect me? Those people that you made me turn my back on, those are my friends. You made me turn my back on them when I really needed them. And now they really need me, so I'm going.
I'm so lucky and happy to have found these actors. In some cases, it was more noticeable and they were closer to the characters than in others. But if you see the case of Finn playing Richie, there's so much similarities between those two characters.
Let's face facts. Real world. Georgie's dead. Stop trying to get us killed like you got him killed.
I didn't get my brother killed.
Out of the way, Bill. You couldn't save him, but you can still save yourself.
And Jaden, there's that introspective, shy nature, also that mastermind, and the calm, quiet judgment.
Let's go.
Go. Go where?
Niable. That's where Georgie is.
After that?
We have to go. I first auditioned as Eddie, and then he saw me, and I had grown and from Midnight Special, I'm guessing, because that's the last movie that I did, and I was pretty small. And then he saw me, and I was bigger, and I guess he saw more of Bill and my personality. That thing took my brother. I'm going.
We did individual work, of course, and then we started working with them in groups. And by the time we hit this combination, it was so clear that these were the guys. I never thought we'd get that chemistry in a group. They were meeting each other for the first time. And these are, kids in their awkward age, or 12, 13, and they're all fantastic. I mean, we saw it in the table reading. They are amazing.
No, I know. Let me hold it. It's amazing. Dude, are we supposed to see a turtle in this movie? In this game?
Dude, there's a turtle scene in this.
It's a sign.
Annie, did we decide? Sorry, just to belabor this a little bit, but we decide that Pennywise wasn't going to come out of the water, that he was just going to travel towards them, and then, or was he going to travel towards them and you want him to float right out of the water?
I don't want him to float anymore. He's just he's going to be prompted out of the water,
right?
And he's going to pretend to be
right.
marching out of it.
Right.
We knew when we were looking for Pennywise that whoever we chose was going to very much guide what kind of film we would be doing. We saw about 160-something auditions, and there were performances covering the whole gamma of what Pennywise could have been. What we found with Bill was that his instincts were so perfect and so aligned with the way Andy saw Pennywise.
Is this your vote? It's a nice vote. Floats.
Even just to audition for this part was fun for me, because it was just like, do your interpretation of what you think the clown would be.
Well, I'm Bob Gray. Pennywise to my friends. What do they call you?
Georgie.
Georgie. Now we aren't strangers, are we?
There was a strange balance that he brought, a strange energy, because he's very childlike. He has these big eyes, sort of childish, cute face, but he brings a darkness that is very, very unsettling. He can play this ambiguity, this dichotomy very well. It comes very easy to him. He understands it.
I did a screen test in Toronto with a very basic clown makeup. I mean, it wasn't even prosthetics or anything. They just, kind of a bald cap and I looked like Krusty the Clown.
Feast for Pennywise, ripe fear, raw fright, belly full of blood-rubbing dread.
It was hard for me to figure out what the character looked or moved like or anything, because such a big part of it is the makeup and the costume. And I didn't know what that would be or how it would look or how it would feel to have on you. So going into it, I kind of really broke down the character kind of intellectually, like what I think this entity is, but I couldn't really physically become him until I got all the makeup and the costume on. So that was a very important piece for me to kind of, the first time I got to see the makeup on, to see how my face moved and what certain things looked like, and then the same thing with the costume.
Amazing.
Constant transformation. So today, Bill Skarsgård, who plays Pennywise, is getting dressed in his complete costume, hair and makeup, and we're going to have a camera test with him, and then it's going to be sent off to the studio. How great does he look? Oh my goodness.
When you start designing a character with these characteristics, you have your ideal in your head and the design of it, and the sketch is the blueprint of what that creature is, and then comes the actor.
Bonsoir. Hello.
Good. It's interesting how the work of bringing these two ideas together, the concept and the reality, and action. The camera test bit was basically that ring of fire moment where I saw for the first time if my concept matched the application of that criteria on the actor. Mainly it was so fun because one part of me was finally at ease with that certainty of what the pieces would look like together. And it was very successful. And cut.
Good. Cut.
Derry is based on a city called Bangor in Maine, of course. It was the hometown of Stephen King. I'd never been to Bangor before, so I made a trip to Bangor. I was there for a few days and wanted to see every corner of it. And it was a great experience because, you know, basically every event covered in the book has its place in Bangor.
Location, this is great right here.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
It was prohibited to shoot in Maine. That was my first idea. And we found this amazing town called Port Hope. Immediately, I found like some similarities to Bangor. I found other things that were not like Bangor at all, but they were quite intriguing in a cinematic way. And then after a while, I embraced the idea that we are recreating Derry. The way it's geographically distributed, it gives us the chance to really build a town.
That framing with the houses works very well.
This was a very hard location to find because the house at the end of the Neville Street is precisely a house at the end of a street. It had a few specifications that are very hard to find in a location. Because we built this whole thing on an empty land, we needed sort of a corner of a street at the end of a lonely street with not too many houses, with an empty lot across of it. So we find the perfect spot. In fact, I was inspired by the Neville house of the book. So basically, this is pretty much a faithful interpretation of what my understanding of Neville was. I think the original has a bit of a red paint, but I didn't want it red, so it's just wood color. But it's built in the Victorian style. It has a bit of a face. It has a smile because it's all crooked. The awning, you see how crooked it is. I wanted that to be a bit of a mirror of Pennywise's smile. If you see the railings, they're all like broken down, and they sort of mimic teeth up and down. So this whole thing looks like a big maw that is waiting for you to get in and eat you.
The first days of it, more than the beginning of the shoot itself, I remember the beginning of the rehearsals. We brought the kids to Canada about 3 weeks before we started shooting, very much by design, because we wanted them to become best friends. That was incredibly important for us. And also, we wanted them to leave their 2016 selves and be kids of 89. That meant no cell phones and learning how to ride bicycles.
Oh, it makes me want to laugh. It makes me want to laugh.
As we got into the bonding, we realized that a couple of the kids did not necessarily know how to ride a bike.
Not in this generation, yeah.
Now we're putting them in groups so they get used to riding with each other and not hit each other. That's the aim. Not hit each other and not hit the mums and dads.
The first conversations we had were mainly about the teamwork for the Losers Club, the ensemble that they are. Like everything we do, it revolves around each other, and it's the friendships.
By the end of 3 days, these kids couldn't live without each other. They were together every single day, even the days off. They were like kids from the 80s, basically, again. And I just love that because it reminded me so much of our childhood and the age that I was when I read the book.
We are losers. Yeah, we are all losers. Now we're winners.
It's so much fun, right? It's so much fun.
The only challenge I can think of is like the time restrictions, because you can only work so many hours with kids that age.
It's a very demanding film for the children. They are doing things that they've never done. A lot of emotional acting, but also very technical.
These are your worst enemies. These guys can eat you alive, all right? So it's a very important moment because it's like the first time that you really defy these kids, okay?
Something I didn't want, or Eddie didn't want, was that the losers have become really good friends with the bullies. So we're like, no, and they're rapping together and they're having the best time. You can't help that.
I try to be friends. I don't have
We're friends on the low. We can't be friends in public.
We all know it's different when we're in the scene and when we're out of the scene, because it's funny, like, they'll beat you up or something like that, and then after the scene, they'll be like, are you okay, are you okay? Shut the fuck up! They're nice guys, but when we're in the scene, it's quite scary, We forget all about our friendship and just get the movie done. It gets a lot easier when you have good actors with you to act actually scared, because you are.
Yeah, it's really weird going to, totally friends, and then 1 second Nick's beating me up, and 1 second he's hugging me.
Oh, yeah, come here, Nick.
I spoke to Andy before the takes when we were into close-up, where Jeremy really needed to ramp up his performance.
Scream help.
Okay. In the rehearsals and throughout the process, I use a lot of phrases that help the kids if they repeat them a number of times to get into a moment. So I think that day I said to Jeremy, just scream, get off me.
And action!
Right before the take, I screamed as loud as I could, and then just tears started running down my face, and after the take, I was like, wow, I don't even know what just came out, because Benjamin Perkins, our acting coach, told me to do that, and it worked amazingly.
I spent quite a lot of time talking to the bullies about how far they could go with Jeremy. Nick's so intense in his performance, but he's also very concerned about how that might affect the other actors.
We were doing the scene with Jeremy Taylor at the kissing bridge, and we were terrorizing the hell out of him, getting in his face, screaming at him.
Henry, please.
After every take, I always make sure to ask if he's okay. Most of the time it was just he gave me a big hug. But if the kids were any less sort of all right with what we're doing to them, which is insane that they are, you wouldn't feel as comfortable around them, and they wouldn't feel as comfortable around you. We try and hang out as much as possible, It's not just us over and having dinner at the next table and the losers over there, where, we're intermingled and having fun.
And our kids are 12. Most of them are 12, and a couple of them are 13. It's the last days of their childhood. And you can see them that they're still kids when you get them to play and rejoice in that childhood. It's wonderful.
Are you guys friends now?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, best friend.
We're very good friends.
That was weird.
Yeah, that's weird, yeah.
Well, if I wasn't his friend, I wouldn't be comfortable with that. But somehow I am.
Comfortable with this?
Stop!
Get in the shot.
When you're making a movie, you have to deal with all sort of limitations and boundaries. And of course, financial ones are the most prominent ones. it has an enhanced meaning when you're like adapting a massive work like it. 1,200 pages is so rich in characters and details and scope, and you're making it into a 2-hour movie, and you don't have like $200 million to make, so it's a challenge.
No, I can record it so in posterity, if it ever happens, it will be recorded that we would like for Justine to play Beverly as the adult.
But don't use that anywhere.
So,
Watch it.
Is this something you can pull when we get it?
Sophia probably is the one with the least experience in movies, but so talented and so naturally gifted, very instinctive too.
This is totally new to me. I've never had this big moment, something this big. I actually didn't know if it was big or not when I first got it. So it's just like all new to me, like how like there's this studios and then there's interviews, and I did not expect this.
Incredibly, to be the only girl amongst a group of 6 boys, she holds her own fantastically, but she has 2 brothers, so she's quite used to being quite rambunctious.
It's like we don't even acknowledge that she's a woman. If that's a bad thing, then please tell me.
You tell me, Sophia, is that a bad thing?
I mean, she's just so like, she doesn't even bring up, she's like, oh, I'm with a bunch of boys. She doesn't even bring it up. It's just so like natural and cool that we're best friends. It's so cool.
The bathroom scene had to be like very intense, you know? It's like you can't like hold back, you know, in a scene like that. There's an added element that I think will make the scene even more tense, which is the element of the hair. Beverly's hair is basically a reflection of her acting against the abuse. Her hair is something that her father is fixated on, and it sort of represents the abuse in the film.
Everything that she sees just traumatizes her, anything relating to her father. She's also scared of blood, because when she starts to look down in the sink, she sees hair and blood.
The way that it has to terrorize her is basically attacking her with her own hair. There could be a more terrifying incarnation than that, because it's not about a creature that attacks you, but it attacks you with your worst fear, and that's when the blood comes out. So it's a bit of a variation from the original event, but it's pretty intense.
Hi, Georgie. Aren't you both back?
It was a hard R from the get-go. There's not a way around it, really. If you're gonna make a story about a monster that eats children, you can't go just soft on a story with that idea. It's also about making justice to Stephen King and his style and the way he writes. You know, he doesn't hold anything back.
Have you guys seen Pennywise yet?
Nope. No.
We're not allowed to see him.
Oh, I think I that. I'm gonna call he has blue hair.
I'm gonna say he's.
I know.
I heard something. I heard one thing. That he has
A
one
mime.
green eye and one orange eye.
It's supposed to look like a mime. Something like a mime.
That's the only thing
I heard from Andy, I think.
I've been trying to keep Pennywise far from the losers. I don't want them to see him. I'm expecting that to have some shock to them.
They've been very secretive. Andy's been very secretive of it. I saw a picture. I don't know if it was. I've seen character models, but I was shooting and I saw something on Barbara's computer that I probably shouldn't have seen. I don't know if it was him, but it might have been a character model. I'm not sure. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's been about 2 months. Still haven't seen Pennywise. Today will be the first day.
They're gonna put him in the place that we're about to film, and then when we go in there, they're gonna have our first reaction.
I never get scared. Are you scared? He's freaking me out.
I'm actually scared.
With how scary this house is and how scary he is, man, it's not gonna be any acting. It's really gonna be scary.
Roll sound, please. And action.
Anyone else feel a chill?
The first scene I shot was with Jack, who plays Eddie, and it's me coming out of the fridge, and I think it's probably one of the, if not the most intense scene in the film in terms of Pennywise and another actor, because I'm so in his face.
carefree that it makes it even scarier because he doesn't have to try to sound scary. He's just scary because like it's like he doesn't even care. Like he's having fun while killing people and haunting people. So it's just like he's like a maniac, you know?
This isn't real enough for you, Billy. Real enough for Georgie.
Oh my God.
The scene in the kitchen is the first encounter between Pennywise and the losers. And you can see it. You can see the reaction of them. And you see Sophia like retreating into the wall, and she's so credible. And I'm not sure to this day if she was acting or not. It was very intimidating with the eyes like completely like looking to different directions and with that thing that he does. It's real drool, it's real slobber.
The teeth made him slobber like crazy.
It's real spitting, and you see the spit going from Bill's mouth right into Jack Grazer's face.
And cut.
So gross. It's not gonna be from his mouth. Okay, wanna hear something disgusting?
Yeah.
So remember when he was like in my face trying to bite me, he drooled and he got it on my lips, and then after the take, I thought it was my own drool, so I'm like this. Hey guys.
Was it delicious?
It was terrible. And then after that, I like, oh my god, that was just gross. It was terrible.
Barbara and me.
I actually gagged like for real. It's amazing.
Of course, after that first sequence, the effect starts to diminish, but at least you catch it for that moment.
Hey guys, you ready to beat the shit out of me? I can't hear you.
Okay, I'm usually
Hi, I'm standing next to my dead self. Can I show this to Pennywise? I'll show him that he eats my flesh.
I remember when Georgie, little Jackson, wanted to see Pennywise, and he saw him from afar, and he told his mom, I want to go see Pennywise. And his mom and the tutor said, no, you can't. Eating for this day for months.
It's just a new look for me today. Hey, how's it going?
How
are you? Are we gonna have some fun? Are you gonna get wet?
Yes, I am.
Am I gonna get wet?
Yes, you are. I think you're gonna get soaking wet.
All right, little man.
He's fun.
I am fun.
But then, of course, they ended up spending a full day in a flooded basement.
You want me to kind of come over to here, maybe? Yeah. Like as an end mark?
First, just the eyes, and if you keep your chin down, it's much more threatening. He's incredibly talented. The control of like every muscle in his face is like just amazing. It's very impressive. He like did things physically in this movie that he never did before or never tried before. I think it was a very, very exhausting work.
You'll float too. 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 You'll float too.
You can't really relate to Pennywise. You can't relate to him in any way because Bill's definitely not a child-killing clown. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe he is.
Come join the clownheads. I'll float down here.
I don't need to base this out of something human, really. There's definitely human aspects of it, because, like, everything is. So, like, psychopathy or, like, evil or sinister or his, lust and hunger and, like, all these feelings are directly human or animalistic, at least. And those are things that you could pinpoint and relate to, or for me to relate to, and then create a character through it.
That's great.
Let's see the one before.
Yeah.
It's like
And,
resting on his head, like the angle is
Anthony, play the one before that, please.
I had a conversation in his trailer where we had this like very serious conversation about the changing the lines, the dialogue, and suddenly I realized that I'm talking to a clown, and he doesn't know it.
No.
Because he's not seeing himself, and I'm talking to a clown that is like all like smeared with children's blood, and he's like talking like very serious to me about like saying like this line and not the other. I took a picture of the event, so I will show it. We will put it and we will cut it in as I'm saying this. We will cut it in. You see it, and I really have to give it to Bill because he did an amazing job and his energy was at full all the time.
Right fear, raw fright, a belly full of blood, dripping dread. Can you smell tasty torture on my breath?
The last scene of the film when they fight Pennywise, that's required a lot of work for them.
As you can see, we do intense fighting. We train for our final battle with Pennywise every day.
The power of belief is what allows them to fight Pennywise, and the power of belief that they create as a group. And you can see it when they're performing, and they feed from each other, which is fantastic to see, and that's actually what happens in the film.
I think we do it too much, but we like to joke around on set because things are getting really emotional now. We're about to leave, and also the scenes are just so tough. We're fighting Pennywise, so we're having fun as much as we can.
Hey, Wyatt.
Hey,
Wyatt here.
What happened to Wyatt? I went to prosthetics, and then things happened.
There's this scene that was shot in the last few days of principal photography at the sewers where Stan is attacked by Judith, one of the incarnations of It. When the monster releases him and the kids go to aid him, he's out of his mind and crying and like blaming them for letting him come into this horrible place.
I think being so close has helped our acting out a lot. For example, with the Wyatt scene, when we're saving Stanley, everybody felt like that was Wyatt, and I felt like I really hurt Wyatt, and I hurt all my friends, and it just helped us a lot getting that emotion out.
That day, we kind of like talked before the scene that we need a few minutes to really get into character because it was definitely an emotional scene, and it's hard to just, when they say action, get into character.
And for a while there's no screaming, and suddenly...
I did the scene 3 days in a row, so that means I cried my eyes out 3 days in a row. But at first, like, I didn't want to do it again, but then I was like, you know what, it's gonna look good, and I think it's gonna pay off. I've been in that place before. I've shut myself off from the world and just cried, but I think that was the first time they opened that door, and it's definitely hard. But I think a good hug will resolve everything.
It was definitely a very weird and out-of-body experience because I started crying out of nowhere and everyone just got really quiet. They're like, roll. And they rolled it, and it was crazy, yeah.
I literally was tearing. We were all like crying, and it was like such a great thing because like the friendships are so strong in this film, and in reality as well. It's so like amazing, and I just found that, and it's and after we did the take, we were all just like bawling our eyes out. It was insane.
That was really a triggering of the moment that they were living because they knew that the shoot was about to finish. I think it was such a beautiful experience for them. It was like the perfect summer. Their bonding was so real. It was the perfect trigger for them to like let go, and suddenly everybody was crying. They were like really bringing out the real emotions, and it was very touching.
A month ago, I remember being really sad that it was coming to an end. But I think we're all ready to go back to our normal lives. It couldn't have gone any other way. And I think we defined the Losers Club, I guess you could say. I think this is probably the best summer of my life.
The bond was real. And whatever happens from now on with their lives, that was a very special summer for them. And it's curious how much of a similarity it has to the story. I mean, the story, it ends up with the losers not seeing each other again as a group, which is a sad note. I don't think it will happen with these kids. They just bonded fantastically.
We just made a movie, guys.
We do it again?
Yes. Part 18. 8 years later.
27 years later.
27 years later.